Okay, I am recording. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first webinar on today's topic, which is the transition to adulthood. My name is Annie Wesselhoff. I am the employee advocate here at Instructional ABA Consultants. I also have my team members with me, our family advocate and our parent liaison, Jennifer and Chris. So welcome to them. We put this together based on the surveys that we had parents fill out in the fall, which where families gave us topics and filled out what they were most interested in learning more about. And this was top of the list. So we wanted to hit on this first. We have 4 wonderful presenters today that I will introduce shortly. We are recording this so that we can put it on our YouTube channel as well as our website. And we're going to try our best to highlight different sections so that if it's too long or there's information that you don't need, you can kind of go to certain times in the presentation to find it. So more to come on that. But this presentation should probably not last more than an hour. And we're very excited to have our 4 presenters. In order, they will go Patty O'Brien, followed by Kim Shontz, followed by Molly Chapman, and finishing it off will be Kristin Wagner. And they all have their titles listed there. They will all be speaking about different areas and topics that they feel that parents of children who have autism who are getting services at Instructional ABA or elsewhere, that topics that they feel and things that the main points that parents could take away with and kind of learn from and have that knowledge when the time comes. So without further ado, I will send it to Patty. Patty does not have a presentation, correct, Patty? You're muted, Patty. Still muted, Patty.
There we go. Sorry about that, everybody.
That's okay.
I'm having
Patty,
some technological difficulties this evening.
That's
Sorry.
okay. That's okay. Thank you, everyone, for staying muted. Patty, do you want me, is it okay to pin you so that we see your face while you're talking?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So go ahead and take it away, Patty.
Okay. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Patty O'Brien. I work at Suburban Access, which is one of the, you probably heard these terms, the ISC agency, the Independent Service Coordination Agency. So my agency, Suburban Access, is responsible for the south and west suburbs of Cook County. And wherever you live in Illinois, there is an ISC available to you and responsible for your service area. You've probably heard it called a PASS agency. A lot of people call it the PASS agency, but in reality, there's a couple of different functions which within the ISC. One is the PASS part of it, the pre-admission screening. So for and I hope, I'm sorry, my dog, Flynn, stop. I apologize. So the PASS part of it is where we enroll people on the PUNS, which is extremely important to get you on the PUNS, which is, I'll go into more detail later, but the PASS part of it enrolls people on PUNS, and then they do the pre-admission screening once somebody's going into service. So whether somebody's going into service because they were selected off the LIGIS, because of the LIGIS lawsuit and selected off the PUNS. I apologize. My dog, I just got home from work and my dog is following me everywhere I go. I apologize. So we do that, the 2 parts of it anyway. We enroll people on the PUNS and we link them with service when they're either in what's considered to be a crisis situation or if they're selected from the PUNS. So we'll go back to that in a minute. And the other part of it is the ISSA, which is the Individual Service and Supports Advocacy, which is the longer term relationship that you would have with us if your child were in service, because once they're in service, then there's a worker assigned to you who develops their plan, who does the discovery with you, who interacts, sort of the middleman between yourself, the provider agency, and the state of Illinois for any paperwork that needs to be processed. So if they were in residential and they needed a one-to-one, if they needed some of the services that Kim will talk about soon through the SST, if you were doing home-based services, which is what an awful lot of families do right now, we would link you with that and then have an individual who follows you and ensures that hopefully your choices are respected and your child is getting what you would like and the services that you would like that are available through the waiver. So that I talked about the puns, or I mentioned the puns a few minutes ago, and the biggest thing that you can do for your child who's about to age out, actually before that, because for most of you, that's around 22 years old, get them enrolled on the puns list. So the puns list, again, just a list, just a waiting list for services. But because of a lawsuit, the Liggis lawsuit that was settled in 2011, and the consent decree that came from that, the state of Illinois is selecting people on a regular basis annually for services, and you can choose either home-based or SILA. And that's fantastic because the only other way that you can get services in Illinois is if you're in a crisis. So the key age is 18, even if your child's been on the puns since they were 3, and I do not discourage you, and they just changed the rule, actually, you can enroll now in an infant. It used to be 3 years old. I don't discourage any parent. In fact, I encourage parents to enroll your children on the puns as well, because perhaps there'll be a lawsuit where maybe they're selecting children. There hasn't been an actual children's selection off the puns, I think, since 2008. But still, please enroll your child whenever, when you hear about the puns, whether it's for someone like me, through a school, whatever. What we need to enroll is a suspicion that an individual has an intellectual or developmental disability. When we get to the actual point of linking you with service is when we would confirm that through a review of documentation, psychological and any other related documents that we would need to complete that pass process. So, but the puns, when you're 18 years old right now, as long as there's a Liggis consent decree, the clock starts ticking. And if you're in the category of seeking services, very, very important, they realigned it. So for those of you who had been on the puns for quite some time, you don't know what I'm talking about. For the rest of you who haven't or just enrolled recently, the key point is that there's 2 categories now. One is planning and one is seeking. So once you're into that seeking service category and you're 18 years old, that clock starts ticking. And the intent of the division right now, via the Liggis consent decree and all the agreements of the parties, is that no one should have to wait more than 60 months, which sounds like a long time, but it's 5 years. So hopefully, once people are starting to age out of school and not too long after that, at 22 years of age, they could be selected from the puns and get services of your choice, of their choice, without having to wait for that crisis, which is really, really just, I think, crucial for families, because once the crisis hits, so many things change. First of all, you don't really have that, sometimes that capacity and that time to really do your research and your due diligence and make some decisions about types of service providers, et cetera, as you do when you're selected, because then you have some time to sit back, really review, really, do your research and find out what's best fit for your family, for your child and your family. So that's very, very important. So again, Liggis, you're going to hear that all the time. That was actually a lawsuit, a class action lawsuit. There was a real guy named Stanley Liggis, and he and several others sued the state of Illinois because they were either relegated to nursing facilities, which were inappropriate, or they were at home receiving no services when really they qualified for services and probably should have services. So based on that and the consent decree, many people have been able to get services and been selected since 2012. So we applaud that. And also part of the consent decree, and I think it's real important, just so people know, is instead of just serving who has been identified as this class, X number of people, they've made an agreement with the state of Illinois that they will serve, I forget, I should have written it down, but the exact wording, but basically a good number of people every year on an ongoing basis to continue to try and decrease this waiting list for services. So that's really, really wonderful.
Hey, Patty,
Yeah.
I think, and I should have said this to start, I'm sorry, that after everyone presents at each window of their 15, 20 minutes at the end, people could ask questions, but I do see Katina, did you raise your hand? Did I miss that? Do you want to ask now? Is that okay, Patty?
Oh, whatever. Yeah, sure.
Okay, go ahead, Katina.
Thank you, Annie. Patty, just a couple of questions. So you said that at age 18, so from what I took from your presentation is at age 18, that is when we should check the box to seeking services versus
Yes,
the other option.
correct.
And so what is the likelihood that we will be chosen, having a child with special needs over the age of 18? What is the likelihood that we will be chosen?
The likelihood is the division's expectation, the Department of Human Services, Division of Developmental Disabilities expectation is that the likelihood is 100% after 60 months after the age of 18. Okay. That's what they've agreed to in court. That's what the court monitor has accepted and the division has agreed to. And so far, that seems to be happening.
And then a follow-up question, what are some examples, some of those services that are being offered, both in-home and external?
There's really only two categories of service. So there's residential services for children, that's children's residential. For adults within the waiver, that's SILA. There's also an option of ICFDD, which is intermediate care facility for the developmentally disabled. The ICFDD option does not need a crisis or a PUN selection. It's a residential option that's open to families or individuals once they're 18 years old. In Illinois, they come in many sizes and shapes, from as small as 4 beds up to hundreds of beds. There's many in the area that we serve in the south and west suburbs of Cook County. So those are the options. And then the other option is the home-based services, again, both for children and adults. And under the category of home-based services, there's a certain amount of money. So for adults, 22 and over, people out of school is basically the intention there. So for adults, it's 3 times whatever Social Security is. So right now, Social Security is, what is it, 77, SSI. SSI is 771 or 777 each month. So it's 3 times that for adults, and for children, it's 2 times. That's going to change in January, of course, because there's a big increase for Social Security. It's a huge increase at 5-point-something%. So under the home base, again, category, you can purchase services such as a personal support worker, a day program, some behavior services, counseling, transportation. There's an opportunity within both the residential and home-based portion of the waivers for people to have up to $15,000 available every 5 years to do such things such as home modification, vehicle modification, some assistive technology. And that's sort of new, coming on from the division and the federal government within the waiver to agree to that. And we can get more specific, but basically it's home-based services with an array that you can purchase, or residential services via a SILA provider or an ICFDD provider.
Okay, one last follow-up question. Service dogs, will that be included?
Service dogs are not part of the waiver right now. So I don't know what, when you say, would that be included? You mean as a service to purchase through the home-based money?
Is that a service that we would not have to pay for? A service
No,
dog?
well, it is not a service not a service that's available through the developmental disabilities waiver. It is not. So I don't know where, wherever that service is available now and how people get that. It's just not through the Illinois DD waiver.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I forget where we were, but I think I was going to talk about the services available in the waiver. So thank you, ma'am. So again, there's home-based services and residential services. And the one thing that I could really say about that, and I don't want to get real specific on things, because this is more of to me, what we do as the ISC and what's available. And then when we work with families, we can get more specific into your individual choices and preferences, et cetera. But when you're looking at services, under home base, for example, you can get a personal support worker that you can, it could be you if you're a parent or guardian, as long as you're 18 or over. Within the adult home-based service, and children's parents cannot be the personal support worker. So, but you could actually be a paid worker for your child. You can get the day program supports, and then you could also go the route of looking at SILA or children's group home. And that's where I just want to say to families, please, please, please do your research, do your due diligence. One of the things that is not allowed for us as the ISC is to give any recommendations as far as agencies are concerned, provider agencies. And there's some great ones out there. There's some fantastic agencies in the state of Illinois that do home-based services, that do day programs, that do residential. And there's some that aren't so great, but they do meet the minimum standards, and they're licensed by the division. We have what's called the choice process, and we have to have families and individuals make the choice of providers. What can we tell you? We can tell you what's close to your home, what's in your town, who's been around for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, et cetera. If that's important to you, the longevity, we can say that we know that these particular agencies in your area that you're looking for have staff, have nursing staff, have behavior staff, have et cetera, on their staff. But what we can't say is, please don't go to this one, and my gosh, get in line over here, because they're just wonderful. So I just really urge families to just do your research, regardless of what age your child is and what you're looking for. And if you think you're not going to do anything for 22 years, get online, research. It's amazing what you find when you Google, and you find the wonderful things, absolutely wonderful things. So I don't want to sound negative. I honestly don't, but I want to encourage, because when families have a great experience and individuals have a great experience, that's wonderful. When they don't, sometimes they're like, why didn't you tell us? Like, well, we can't. So, get out there and go visit and go see what's going on. Visit the day program when it's in session. Visit a SILA when it's dinner time, the evenings, weekends. Don't go there when they want you to. It's usually about noon on Tuesday when everything's looking great. So not that it wouldn't at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, but get out there and see what's happening. How are people interacting and treating people? The one thing that you might not know, because your kids are kids, it sounds like everyone we're meeting with has children. Medicaid is needed for these programs. So right now, if your child is under 18, Medicaid is going to be based on your family income. And a lot of families do not qualify for Medicaid based on their income. But if they qualified for the service within the developmental disabilities waiver, we have an ability to work with Medicaid and the division and get a case approved for Medicaid flagged only for the service. So we can do that for your adult child. Once they're 18, even if they live in your home, only their income counts, et cetera. So we don't really have an issue usually with adults unless they have a really good job that they make a lot of money, or they have a lot of money in the bank. And then in which case you should take a look at a special needs trust or the ABLE accounts and many things that are available. Again, nothing that we would recommend. It's something I think that you need to take a look at as a family, what suits your needs the best, what suits the individual's needs the best. But if there's any money involved that would preclude somebody from becoming eligible for Medicaid, now's a good time to take a look at that and take care of that. And keep in mind, as families, many families have trust funds and have, all kinds of things set up for the kids, and it's all split equally and it's all great. But a special needs trust is completely different than that type of trust. So if we're taking a look at getting services for your son or daughter through a Medicaid program, be it DD, be it DOORS, you need to make sure that their assets are categorized as they should be, and saved for them and protected if you're going to move forward. That doesn't mean that they can't inherit, part of your estate or their grandpa's estate or whatever it is, but they need to be looked at a little bit different than your other children to make sure that you have that set up and secure. So I think that's really important. The other thing that's really important, and a lot of things happen with people, they get involved with doors perhaps for something, or with DD in the waiver system. You can't be in 2 waivers at one time. So a lot of our folks who get selected off of PUNs, who have, doors generally serves people who have more medical and physical issues. They may also have an intellectual disability, but now you get selected from PUNs and you have to make that decision. And really you have to weigh your options. What are you getting out of this program versus that program? But knowing that you can't be in 2 waivers at once. And I think I said it earlier, the amount for the home base for the adults is 3 times Social Security. For children, it's 2 times. And that parents can't be the PSWs. And I know the issue of guardianship came up and was being discussed on a phone call that some of us had earlier regarding this presentation. And all I could say to that is, everyone doesn't need a guardian. It's wonderful that came up, because a lot of families think that because they have a child with some type of disability, that they're automatically a guardian, that magic 18, when we're all emancipated, doesn't occur for them, but it does. So regardless of your abilities, regardless of your IQ and your needs, once you're 18, unless someone goes to court, you're legally emancipated. But does your child need a guardian? Do they not? Do they need a certain type of guardianship? Can it be modified? Those are questions I think that are best answered by, internally with your family, with your attorney, and then once you go before the judge, because your child would get that chance too to come up and say, do they want a guardian? Don't they? And express why or why not. It's kind of a fine line sometimes when your kids have an awful lot of abilities, but you might think they need a little more of a guide from you legally. I don't know, so again, nothing that we would recommend or not, unless it's clear that your child absolutely cannot make decisions for themselves and might be, taken advantage of out there. Nobody wants that. That's kind of a really quick, I think, overview of the ISC and what we do and how we do it, but I'm happy to answer any of your questions. I don't know if I even hit on what you wanted, but I'm here to answer any of your questions that you'd like.
Thank you, Patty. Does anyone have any follow-up questions? I think you hit on the main takeaways and the main points. So are you okay if we give your email out if there is a further question?
Oh yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. Sure.
Okay, I'll put it in the chat. Does anyone else have any follow-up questions before we move to Kim?
I just have a quick question regarding the services, like if they were home-based. Is that something where you incur the expense and submit it to get reimbursed, or do you just get that maximum per month?
So there's a dollar amount available each month. For children, you can save a little bit of that so that you have a little extra for the summer when they're out of school. For adults, you can't do that. But really, there's just a dollar amount, and it's there. It's virtually there. And then your PSW, let's say, they bill through a system that's called ROCKS. That's the way the state of Illinois pays their money. And there's a company called Access, not Suburban Access, a different Access, ACCE $, actually based out of Pennsylvania. And they have a contract here in Illinois to do the third-party paying. So the money is there. If they go to day program, they bill through there. If they receive some behavior services, they bill through there. If, again, the PSW bills through there. There's agencies that used to be called home-based facilitators that are now called self-direction assistants. And you could get somebody from an agency to assist with all the paperwork, which sometimes is difficult to do initially. It's pretty simple once you get the hang of it. But, I always say to people, if you really have it's usually $100, $200, $300 out of each month. If you have that ability, do that for a little while and figure it all out. And then you can drop them if you want to. But again, that's all billed through a system that the state of Illinois has, and there's no money that exchanges hands. Right? Is that, I hope that's clear.
No, I got it. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Great. Okay. Well, I put Patty's email in the chat. So if you didn't get that, you can feel free. If you have follow-up questions, you can put them in the chat too. We're going to move to Kim. I don't know if I said this when I started, but I do want to thank over and over again our presenters for being here. We really appreciate you guys giving us the time. So I'm sorry that I didn't open with that. Also want to thank all the families for being here, and your questions are very helpful and make this so interactive so that we're not just speaking to a screen. So thank you. We're going to move to Kim. So I'm going to pin you, Kim. Let's see if I can remove. Here we go. Okay. All right. Take it away, Kim.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm excited about being here tonight to share this with you. And I do have some slides to share with you. Let me just go back to the. All right. So I'm the director of a team, the support service team, and some of you may actually be familiar with our team already, part of the Illinois Crisis Prevention Network. And we actually receive referrals for people living in the community. They might be receiving home-based services. They might be living in a SILA. They might be an adult who's aged out and have no services, and they're experiencing behavioral or medical challenges while in the community. So our team will actually go in and work side by side with instructional ABA or other supports that you have in the home and try to help to reduce that frequency and the severity of the behaviors that are presenting challenges for the person and for the family, obviously. But tonight I'm actually going to talk a little bit more about what does it look like when a young person transitions. We actually receive a lot of referrals for people who are transitioning from adolescent child services into adults. And we have a lot of conversations with parents about what that should look like. So part of what I'm going to talk about is things that we've kind of learned over the years. Prior to doing the support service team, I've actually been part of a provider agency for almost 25 years. So I also have that experience as well. So when when the person, your loved one is moving into making some of those decisions about potentially going into residential services, there's 4 main areas that we want to look at: living, working, learning, and relaxing. So some of the questions that we're going to start asking pretty quickly are, what type of residential setting is going to best meet my needs? Okay, so as your loved one's making these decisions, SILA, which is a group home where no more than 8 people can live. Patty talked a little bit about ICFDDs. That's a living option for people who do not have waiver services, and they do range. They tend to be larger environments. Are we thinking that family or intermittent SILA would be a good choice for me? Would that's funding where the person might actually stay in their own home, and a provider agency comes in and provides usually a minimum of 15 hours of services in the home per week, and that includes day program funding. Then we need to start getting into some very basic things like, do I want a ranch style home? Perhaps I'm a little unsteady on stairs. Do I need a home that's wheelchair accessible? What do I want my house to look like? Where do I want to live? These are very important questions as you guys are moving forward in this process. Do you want a house that's in the city? In the suburbs? We're out here in Joliet in the New Lenox area, and when I go to a provider in the city, it's a whole different world, literally, to see a group home that's in the middle of Chicago versus one that's in the middle of Joliet or in the middle of New Lenox or in the middle of Manhattan. And people enjoy both settings, right? So those are some important things to think about. Where do I want this home to be? Do I want it to be rural? We've had people that we've served here at Trinity who grew up on farms. And, having a rural provider where they can literally be next to the cornfield has made all the difference in terms of their happiness in life. Do I want to live north, south, east, or west? It's a big state, and your ISC can send packets out to any part of the state possible. We've had people who have actually looked for providers in the southern region of Illinois, even though they live in the northern region, because the parents knew that they were going to be retiring to that area. So they actually thought, well, let's just get our loved ones settled in the southern region now. Will I be able to walk to stores? Is there public transportation available to me? Once again, in the city, public transportation is an option. Out here, it's really not. So, once again, where do I want to live? What do I want it to look like? Those are things we want to think about ahead of time and not just go for the first place that has a vacancy. We want that person to be thinking about, who do I want to live with? Do I want to live with people who are similar to my age? Do I want them, what activity level? Perhaps I'm a very quiet, reserved person and I like very quiet environments. Maybe your 18 or 22-year-old would like to live with older people because it's quieter and a slower pace. Perhaps that's good for them. Do we want people with similar interests? We have houses where all the guys are really into watching wrestling, and that works out really well, right? That gives them a common thing to do together. Other houses of women who really like to knit, really love arts and crafts, and a lot of their week is just kind of revolved around doing that kind of stuff together. Co-ed, some agencies offer co-ed housing. For some people, that's not a problem and they really enjoy having that option. Other people, that might not be a good thing, right? They might need to live in a home with other men and other women as opposed to co-ed. Am I okay with sharing a bedroom? It can be difficult to find a provider that has single bedrooms. And so thinking that through a little bit, what would that look like? Typically if you're moving from home and you're aging into adult services, you've had your own room the whole time. What's that going to look like as I'm thinking about moving into a different environment? How many people do I want to live with? Some people are very social and they're perfectly okay living in a 7 or 8 person group home. There could, once again, it could be 7 or 8 people who have very similar interests and they enjoy that. There's others who might only want to have a few roommates or a few housemates. So thinking of that ahead of time as you're looking through your residential options. And then it's also important to start thinking ahead of time, what level of support do I need? Agencies will provide different levels of nursing support. Some agencies might have a nurse who's kind of on retainer or working part-time and not as readily available, but not very many people have medical needs. Other agencies might serve a lot of people who are medically fragile. And, there's a lot of nursing supports available. Thinking about, do nurses attend doctor's appointments with the people who are in that agency? Once again, what is that level of nursing support? Also behavioral supports, are there BCBAs? Are there level 2 behavior analyst available to me if I need those types of behavioral supports? If I've been getting a lot of behavioral support at home prior to moving to a CILA agency, chances are I'm going to need to continue those supports, moving into a new residential facility. So what are the supports? Are they people who are actually employees of the agency? Are they contracting out to other agencies? What do those supports look like and how much are they available? And then also counseling and therapy. A lot of people that we serve are dually diagnosed and they do benefit from counseling and or therapy from a clinical therapist. Are those supports going to be available to me as well? Will I have a counselor if I need one? Work is very important to many, many people. In that if they come into the new residential program, we want to be able to keep that going for them. So thinking ahead, what do I want to be doing during the day? Am I coming out of a transition program in high school and I already have a job, or I have my dream job? Will I be able to continue that if I move into residential services? What skills do I need? Are there supports available to me so that I can learn those skills and move into my dream job? And will transportation be available to me? This is actually a pretty important question because not every agency and not every program in every area has transportation readily available. So those are important questions to ask when you're looking at potential providers. We also want the person to be thinking about continued learning. If a person goes into services at 18 and has not graduated from high school, they can continue going to high school. There are people who live in adult CILA programs who still go to school. Do I want to enroll in college courses? We have a lot of people that will go to Joliet Junior College or College of DuPage and really enjoy that experience. Is that available to me? Asking those questions. Do I want to take other classes in the community? Do I want to attend a community day service program? Day programs are very, very important. We're going to talk about that in a second. And what do I want to do while I'm there? Day programs run the gamut. Some are like woodworking programs, or maybe horticulture programs. Some have like a jewelry making program. There's, some have, they make dog treats and they sell them. There's a gazillion different ways that day programs can be set up. And so really understanding what the options are and what that person wants to do when they're in their day program. How about when I'm relaxing? This is my new home. What am I going to be doing in my downtime? How do I want to spend my leisure time? Okay. Do I want to pursue my hobbies or learn new ones? Are those resources going to be available to me? Will there be staff available? Is there a van available to take me to the, Lionel Train Hobby Club on Saturday afternoons that I've been enjoying? What is, once again, I don't want to give up what I already have. So can I still get that in this new environment? Okay. Do I want to be involved in sports and recreation activities? Do I want to volunteer? Do I want to attend a place of worship? So just some things to really think about in terms of the quality of life during downtime. This is probably even more important though. What are questions that I should ask when I'm starting to do this process? Okay, as you're starting to identify potential providers, you've kind of thought through that list that we just talked about. You know those questions, but what are the really important questions to ask? I really feel that finding out what is the mission of the agency and what are their values is really important. That shows that an agency has spent some time thinking about their culture, thinking about their mission, and helping people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Find out what it is. Meet the leadership staff, read about them online, and then go meet them. It doesn't take long to talk to leadership staff and agencies to find out if they really do live by that mission statement, if those values are really infused into their culture. Spend some time getting to know the leadership staff. Find out if I'm a loved one and I have a question about my child, who am I going to contact or talk to if something happens after hours and I'm worried about them? Sounds like a basic question, but it is really important. It's difficult to have our children leave home. We want to know, who would I call if I'm talking to him at 8 o'clock and he just doesn't sound quite right? Who am I going to call when I hang up to make sure that he's okay? All right. Very basic stuff like, can I bring my own furniture? Can I decorate my room? That's important too, right? This is that person's home. That should be the number one thing that you pick up on when you are doing visits, that this is their home. It is not the agency's home. It's not the staff's home. It is the home of the people receiving services. So thinking that through, once again, what can I do if I move in here to make this room my own, to make this house my own? Basic question, can I have visitors at my home? Okay. For the person receiving services, who do I talk to if I'm unhappy with my services? Who is my go-to person? What can I do? Asking, can I talk to other people who are receiving services, and can I talk to their families before I make a final decision? This is one of the most important decisions you're going to make. So let me talk to people who are receiving services. Let me talk to their families. Let me find out what their experience is. Okay. I feel that this one is a really important question, especially if your loved one has some problems, some challenging behaviors at times, or tends to perhaps present with somatic complaints, or has diabetes, or has a seizure disorder. You want to know, how does the agency handle medical, psychiatric, and behavioral emergencies? Ask the question. What is the thresholds? If my loved one has a seizure, how quickly are you going to be calling 911? Because it's very possible that you don't have to call 911 for every single seizure. If your loved one is having a behavioral emergency, are they going to call the police? Are they going to call 911? Are they going to try to get this person hospitalized? Oftentimes it's staff training that helps to prevent the need for some of those outside services to come in when a person is experiencing medical, psychiatric, or behavioral emergencies. So you want to find out, what are those supports in place so that there's not that overutilization of 911 or police services. Extended home visits have actually just become a topic again in Illinois, because there's been some changes in terms of how long a person can be away from the SILA in terms of funding for that person. So I would ask the agency, what is the agency's philosophy about extended home visits? Okay. If I want to take my loved one home for 3 weeks or a month, is that going to be a problem? Okay. Once again, important questions to ask. And then my final one, can I freely visit the CDS programs and a SILA home before making this decision? Exactly what Patty said. I agree with everything that she said. It is so important to observe. Go to the home different times of day, catch different staff on shift, go to those CDS programs any time of day. Like Patty said, first thing in the morning can be rather chaotic. End of the day can be really chaotic in a CDS program. Go then, find out how they manage that time. How are they helping people with transitions? how do the people look who are receiving services? Are they shaved? Is their hair brushed? Are they clean? Are they wearing nice clothes? You know, or are their clothes filled with rips and stains? Are people smiling? Are people engaged? Do they look happy? If a staff comes up, do the people receiving services look fearful, or are they going towards that person? How do the people within the program get along in that house? Are they talking to one another? Are they spending time with one another? Or when you walk into the solo home, is everybody in their rooms and nobody's interacting with one another? You can pick up a lot by observe, observe, observe. Just keep watching, go back a couple times, visit a couple different homes within the agency, spend time talking to the staff. Do the staff understand the culture that you learned about from the leadership staff? Has that been infused throughout the agency? Has that trickled down? So those would be, that's truly the most important thing that you could possibly do as you're trying to help your loved one move into their next phase of services in the system. That is all that I have.
Thank you so much, Kim. That was very helpful, very insightful. Thanks for the PowerPoint. Does anyone have any follow-up for Kim? I'll also put her email in the chat as long as she's okay with that. Okay.
This is Patty. Oh, I'm so sorry. I just want to say, I can't agree more with what Kim said regarding the leadership and the mission and going to talk to those people. Prior to my work at Suburban Access, where I've been for 11 years, I was the administrator at a very large agency that provided services to children and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, with a school, a day program, an ICFDD, kids residential, adult residential, the whole bit. And I got to tell you, if someone doesn't want to sit down and talk to you, regardless of the size of the agency, you might be at the wrong place. And I think that that point is very well taken. Get out and do your research, knowing that this is, as Kim said, and I totally agree with that too, one of the most difficult and biggest decisions you're ever going to make in your life. So I'm sorry I cut you off, ma'am.
That's okay. My question was, with COVID restrictions, are solo homes allowing open visits and things like that from outsiders?
So that's a that's $1 million question. It varies from agency to agency. Some agencies, okay, how can I put it? Most are allowing visits. However, if a family member is not vaccinated or the loved one is not vaccinated, there are some differences in what those visitation policies are. Part of the problem right now is that if one person in the house tests positive, everybody in that house or who has had contact is quarantined. So what happens is one person tests positive, all the staff who were in contact with that house now has to quarantine for 14 days, which means the agency, which is probably already experiencing a staffing crisis, is extremely short-staffed. So there's this tension because it's very difficult, right? Because families want to spend time with their loved ones. Everybody understands that. And of course, that is the most important thing possible. But some of the restrictions that are in place for visitation right now are because of policies and procedures that have been set up through public health.
Right. Okay.
I wonder, Kim, if she meant families who just want a tour, like
yeah.
I'm so sorry. I'm so used to the other side of things. I apologize.
And so that's why I was shaking my head. No. I
was
think that unless they're seriously considering serving your child at this point, I don't think that the agencies are really open to having you come in as they would have been, 2 years ago. Can you want to come for a tour? Sure, we'll bring you guys on a tour. So I think if you're working with an agency, with a provider agency, and they're very serious, yes, but I think for the ones who might be saying, here's my top 10 or my top 7, and I really just want to go and check them out, they might not be as receptive right now, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't call and ask.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm so sorry that I misunderstood the question. I do know that the leadership staff should still be willing to meet with you at their offices. Most of us are working out of offices, you know, and so if you have an agency that you want to talk to, they'll meet with you. They're also doing a lot of Zoom visits, you know, where at least you can see the house by Zoom. They'll walk you around, they'll do a tour and stuff like that. You know, they might be, if there's a potential that the person's going to move, meeting the housemates by Zoom. We've actually been doing a lot of facilitating for stuff like that. So they're finding other ways to compensate.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Thank you. Any other questions before we move on to Molly? All right. Thank you so much, Kim. Molly, I'm going to pin, see if I can remove this. I think Molly has a PowerPoint. There we go. All right. Take it away, Molly Chapman.
Okay, are you guys seeing one slide or a bunch of slides?
One,
One slide? Okay,
your title
All right.
slide.
all right. Wanted to make sure I was sharing the right one. Hello, I'm Molly Chapman. I am the Assistant Bureau Chief of Program. I work in the Home Services Program with the Division of Rehabilitation Services. We are one of the divisions within the Department of Human Services. So the Division of Rehab, we're actually very large organization, provide services to people with disabilities, employment, education, and independent living opportunities. I have detailed out the various programs that we have. Of course, we have the Home Services Program, which is why I'm here to talk about. One of my coworkers is going to be touching on vocational rehabilitation. We also have services and programs for people with blindness, other visual impairments. DRS provides funding for Centers for Independent Living. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Centers for Independent Living or CILs. There is a CIL that covers every region of the state, similar to Patty and the ISC agencies. And they provide all types of services for people with disabilities, especially if folks are out wanting to live on their own. They're just a wealth of information for folks with disabilities. We also have the Client Assistance Program, a variety of educational services. And kind of a little known secret is that we are responsible for the disability determination services for the state of Illinois. So I'm here to talk about home services. We provide services to individuals with significant disabilities so that they can remain in their homes and that they're not having to move to a group home or to an institutional or a nursing facility setting. Now, within home services, there are a variety of services and supports that can be received. The primary, most popular one is personal assistants or homemakers. So those are going to be folks that are going to come into your home and provide assistance with your personal care needs. So those are going to be your activities of daily living. We also have maintenance home health services. Those are your skilled services, skilled nursing. So CNAs, LPNs, RNs. We have respite services. Now, respite is a service that is available to people who may not qualify for the full array of services. And I can touch on kind of how that happens, but we do have some folks that only qualify for respite, while the great majority of the people we support, and we call the people we support customers. So the great majority of our customers are have the option of receiving all the other services, while some only receive respite. We fund adult daycare programs, home delivered meals, electronic home response, and home modification and assistive equipment. We do not fund service animals. I don't know if that question was going to be asked for me as well as it was for the other waiver programs, but we do not fund service animals. That is a great idea, though. I like it. Okay, so becoming an HSP customer. So to become a customer of HSP, you have to first make a referral. And I have some information that I'll provide in my slide on how you make a referral. You can do it online or via telephone. Our referral process is fairly simple as far as to get your name on the tickler to be contacted by an HSP counselor in order to have an assessment completed. So our assessment process, there are a couple different parts of it. First, someone's going to call and schedule an appointment. We used to do all of our assessments in home face-to-face. Now, because of COVID, we are primarily doing them via telephone. We do have the option, and we do really enjoy doing Zoom or WebEx or FaceTime assessments with folks. So we try to offer that option and encourage people to meet with us at least virtually face-to-face. Your assessment process is going to start with an interview where they're going to ask you just all kinds of questions, right? They need all the typical information in order to get started. And then they're going to do an assessment. Now, the assessment we use at DRS, it's called the determination of need. And we refer to that as the DON. It is the same, basically the same assessment that is used to qualify for someone to live in a nursing home. And our services are considered to be appropriate. The level of care would be a nursing facility level of care. And what you're doing is you're choosing to receive those services in your home versus choosing to receive them in a nursing home or other type of institution. So it is the same assessment. Then there'll also be questions about your financial status, the customer's financial status. If the person is, let's say, well, I'll talk about the minors here in a minute, but the financial status, and then we do require medical records. Medical records have to be provided that support all of the responses and information that is entered into the DON that would qualify someone to receive our services. Now, if you're approved for services, you would go on to the service planning process. Now, if the customer is on Medicaid, and if they are currently a participant with a managed care organization, so Health Choice Illinois, they're with an MCO. If they're with an MCO and they then start to receive services through HSP, that managed care organization is going to provide the oversight for your home services, for your waiver services. So the care coordinator is going to essentially be your case manager. Now, if you are not, so if you're receiving Medicaid, and if you're not with an MCO, your case manager would end up being the HSP counselor. Now, also, if you're not on Medicaid, because we do provide support to people who are not on Medicaid, then your case manager would end up being the HSP counselor also. So they would do your service planning and authorize your services and provide oversight. So after service planning is completed, where your services are chosen based upon your needs as identified on the DON, will authorize your services. The great majority of people primarily choose individual provider services, personal assistants, the folks that are going to come in and help you in your home. Now, these folks are employed by the customer, right? So the customer is the employer. Of course, if it's a minor child, then the parent and legal guardian is going to assist with that process. You are the employer. However, DRS acts as the fiscal intermediary. We have a number of functions that we provide, a number of services that we provide. Without going into too much detail, the best way for me to characterize that is to say that essentially we pay the bills, right? So there is no, another question someone asked, there is no pay up front and reimbursement. There's nothing like that. Money does not come out of your pocket. Money goes straight from the state to the service provider. And then services can also be authorized by an agency. So like a homemaker agency or a maintenance home health agency. where the customer does not have to be the employer. They don't have to worry about hiring and firing or scheduling or anything like that. There is an agency that does that. Now, every year you'll have to go through the reassessment process for an annual determination of eligibility. It is a new assessment every year. However, your information is already in there, so they don't always have to like ask for updated medical records, of course, unless something has changed in a person's condition. And then there is annual service planning. So eligibility criteria. The first one is be at imminent risk of healthcare facility placement. Now, that statement kind of confuses people, right? It scares them a little bit, but it is what's in our rules. And essentially, we determine that if you score 29 or higher on the DON, you meet that criteria. You have to have a severe disability lasting at least 12 months or for life. Now, we distinguish between this because let's say that someone doesn't have use of their legs and they have to use a wheelchair, right? Let's say they have cerebral palsy. That's a condition from birth and it's going to last through life. That's going to be different than maybe someone who's broken a hip and they're having to use a wheelchair and they can't care for themselves. That typically is not a condition that is going to last for 12 months or more. Require services which cost the same or less than a nursing home. And we satisfy this criteria by ensuring that the service plan costs are at or under the service cost maximum. And I'll talk about that in a moment. You have to be under age 60 at the time of application, unless the person has a diagnosis of HIV/AIDS or brain injury. Now, there is no minimum age of eligibility. However, given the way the DON is scored, we do primarily support adults and provide services to adults. That's not to say that children don't qualify, because of course they definitely do. But there's just, I would say there's a range. Like the younger ages will have fewer customers. And then, when you get into older ages, like, teenagers, we end up having more HSP customers that are teenagers. So 13, 14, 15. Especially when you get into like 17 years of age, the average child does not need a whole lot of assistance with activities of daily living when they're 17, versus a child with a disability that might need assistance with activities of daily living when they're at the age of 17. A resident of Illinois. So this is assets. So for an individual customer over the age of 18, it's $17,500 in non-exempt assets. The family home and a vehicle is exempt. And then for customers under the age of 18, or if you're married, the asset limit is $35,000. Now you have to cooperate with and apply for Medicaid. You don't have to be determined Medicaid eligible. So this is different than services provided by the developmental disability waivers, where you have to be Medicaid eligible. For DRS services, you do not have to be Medicaid eligible. However, you do have to apply and cooperate with the process. So the determination of need, right now we're doing them over the phone. The mini mental, so the three components is a mini mental state exam. Impairment, so that's a functional ability. What can or can't a person do? Like, can I comb my hair? Can I clean myself? Can I toilet independently? Can I make phone calls? And then the other thing is need. What does the person need help with? So, maybe I can't make phone calls. I don't have the ability to make phone calls, but that's okay. I don't need to make phone calls because my husband does it for me, or my mom does it for me. So let's say you're a 10-year-old child and you don't have the ability to make phone calls due to your disability. Well, so you have some limitations in the impairment section, but as far as the need goes, a 10-year-old child really wouldn't have a need to independently make phone calls for things such as going to the doctor, or doing any banking or paying bills. Yeah, they would need to make a phone call for if they needed emergency 911. They may want to call grandma, they may want to call mom or dad at work, but it's not as if a 10-year-old child is going to be completely independent in making phone calls to carry on their day-to-day activities. Now let's take that same 10-year-old child. You would expect them to be able to select their clothing, put on a shirt, put on their undergarments, tie their shoes. So let's say you had a 10-year-old who couldn't do those things, who couldn't independently dress themselves. So you're going to have some points in impairment. Now you go to need. The average 10-year-old child should be able to do those things. If they can't do those things due to their disability, then they would get some points in need. So when it comes to children, the DON is scored a little differently because parents have a legal obligation to provide care for their child who is under 18. Now, once they turn 18, there is no legal obligation to provide care and support for your child. So scoring changes a bit as a child ages, and then especially once they turn 18 and that legal requirement for parental responsibility is no longer there. And now these are the dot points. These are the different areas that are scored on the DON. So eating, bathing, grooming, dressing, transferring, incontinence, managing money, telephoning, preparing meals, laundry, housework, outside the home. Outside the home is like a person's ability to navigate services outside the home, like going to the grocery store, taking care of banking, going to the doctor, a person's ability to do all those things. Routine health, you fall down, you have a scrape, you need to put a Band-Aid on it. Routine things, maybe taking your medication, taking daily medication. Special health is going to be things, such as like tube feedings, right? Or special dressings if people have, pressure sores or other type of medical conditions that require ongoing care. Those would be special health. And then being alone is simply a person's ability to be alone in their home. I think there was something I was going to say about this point, and it's slipped my mind. Maybe it'll come back to me. Okay. So your service plan, it's going to document the services received. Each service is supported by a need on the DON. The total cost of services cannot exceed the service cost maximum. So our service cost maximum is different than the Division of Developmental Disabilities. As Patty said, theirs is 2 times or 3 times SSI. Our service cost maximums are dependent upon your score on the DON. So the higher your DON score, the more significant your disability, the more need that you have, then the higher your service cost maximum is going to be. So the higher amount of money you're going to have in order to spend for services. One other difference than DD is that the actual amount of money on your service plan, the cost is, it is a conversation, it is a decision between the customer. If it's a minor customer, it's going to be the parent or their representative. It's going to be a discussion that has occurred, and then it's put on the service plan, and that's pretty much what it is, unless you request that your service plan be adjusted. Another difference is that with HSP services, each service has a set rate of pay. There is no flexibility when it comes to that. The state sets the rate of pay, and the rate of pay does not vary by customer. So every individual provider, so every personal assistant that works for an HSP customer in the state of Illinois is getting paid the same. They're actually represented by a union, which is another one of some of the tasks that DRS does. So I'm going to kind of shift gears a little bit, and I just want to say a few words about waivers. So we have, and I think I probably need to talk faster. So the state of Illinois, the programs that we've been talking about thus far are funded by home and community-based service waiver programs. These programs allow individuals to remain in their own homes or live in a community setting instead of an institution. Each waiver is designed for individual with similar needs, okay? Each waiver offers a different set of services. So DRS offers, our home services program offers a different set of services than the Division of Developmental Disabilities offers. Each waiver program is going to have a different set of eligibility criteria. Each waiver is going to have an operating agency. Each operating agency has a different process for submitting a referral. So Patty talked about the Division of Developmental Disabilities and the PUNS list, right? If you get on the PUNS, the services that you're signing up to receive are those that are operated under the 3 waivers that the Division of Developmental Disabilities has. So for the Division of Rehabilitation Services, we have a web referral system. If you go into the web referral system and submit a referral, you are going to be waiting for services that are operated by one of the 3 waiver programs that the Division of Rehabilitation Services offers. The great thing about waivers is that the state gets 50% or more money back from the government, from the federal government, for Medicaid recipients. Some programs have support people that are not on Medicaid by using funds only from the state, so no federal reimbursement. Example, home services program. We have a state funded option. Waivers may be commonly referred to by more than one name, and this is something that in working with parents over the countless years that I've been working with parents, it is so confusing for people because we use different words to refer to the same program. So you may, a waiver will have an official waiver name, or it might be referred to as a specific service type like SILA, or it may have a general program name. So an example would be, so for the home services program that I've been talking about, we operate the persons with disabilities waiver, persons with brain injury waiver, and the persons with HIV/AIDS waiver. However, all those wrapped into one are called home services. For SILA and day programs, they're adult with developmental disabilities waiver. Supported living facilities, they're through the supported living program, which is a waiver. And as Patty said, a person can only be in one waiver at a time. So you can't receive services under home services program and be in a SILA. Those are different waivers. So this information here, this is just the nine Illinois waivers. And I think this presentation is going to be available to you afterwards so that you can see like DHS-Division of Rehab. We're an operating agency. We have these 3 different waivers and we call them the home services program. The Division of Developmental Disabilities, they have 3 waivers as well, the ones that Patty talked about. So I won't go into detail about this, only to say that you know, the most important takeaway from here is that this link that I have posted, this is for a fact sheet on each waiver. So you can go to this link and you'll find a quick and dirty summary of the different programs and services that are offered under each one of these different waivers. Because as you know, as Patty said, if you're faced with a choice to pick between the home services program or one of the DD waivers, you really need to be educated. You really need to understand what you're choosing. And these fact sheets are, they're a nice summary. They can still be confusing to the layman, but they're a really nice summary of the services that are offered. There's also actual copies of the waivers there'll be the actual copy of the waiver and then the fact sheet, right? Trust me, you want to start with the fact sheet, okay? The waivers are hundreds of pages. Okay, and then as I promised, here is a link to make a referral. This link is good for HSP or Voc Rehab. DRS also has a statewide hotline. If you want to find your local DRS office, and I say DRS because those are the offices for both your home services and vocational rehabilitation. There's a link to find your local DRS office by county. And then I also have a link to find your local Center for Independent Living.
Okay. Thank you so much, Molly. So informational. Does anyone have any follow-up questions for Molly? Feel free to unmute.
Hi.
Yep, go ahead.
So I know you mentioned that you can't be under more than one waiver, but can you apply to more than one and then choose?
Yeah, and a lot of times that happens.
Okay.
It can take longer to receive services through the Division of Developmental Disabilities. So oftentimes people also submit a referral through DRS, and they could be receiving services through HSP while they're waiting on PUNS.
Gotcha.
To get pulled from the PUNS list. And then when that happens, you know, you have to make a choice. And there, but yeah, folks do that.
I just want to make one slight clarification. As far as DRS services, some of the employment services are also open to individuals under the DD waiver. So supported employment and things such as that. But absolutely, the home programs are not allowed to be.
Right. So the home services program, those are the waiver funded services. Vocational rehabilitation is not a waiver service, right? So that's the distinction there, is where is your funding coming from? Is it coming from a waiver? And if it is, then that's where you can only be in one. But the voc rehab services that are offered through DRS are not waiver. And that, you know, that's why some of this stuff can be confusing for folks, because then over in the Division of Developmental Disabilities, they do have some employment services that are waiver funded.
Thank you.
A question?
Yes.
Can I, yeah. You know, there's just so much information. Is there like when you go through the education process, you can have like an advocate or, you know, somebody, is there some service like an advocacy service to help families that can navigate all of this that you're aware of?
So I know that if you're looking at like, if your child has an intellectual or developmental disability, and Patty, I definitely don't want to speak for you, but the ISC agents, they do help navigate the system. Now, I don't want to say that they navigate the entire system, right? Because the entire system is made up of lots of different pieces. Like I said, I just went through those 2 slides that showed the different waivers. And like I said, waivers are designed around groups of people with similar needs, So.
And, you know, there's always groups like the ARC and other agencies that,
Like,
you know,
the ARC is, I know the Jewish agency, is that the one you're talking to?
No, there's the ARC, there's the local ARC here that's, I believe their office out of Frankfurt, and then there's the National ARC, which is the, you know, it's a weird acronym, so it's going to leave it at ARC. But they do a lot of services for people. They have a contract with the division to do the Legis Family Advocate Program, and they do a lot of different things. So there are groups outside of, you know, I think Molly and I, we both work for, well, I don't work for the state, Molly does. So, but the ARC is outside of that, and there's different trade groups and there's organizations and associations. But truly, if your intention is to get your child enrolled in 1 or 2 of the waivers or try to get services through them, for DD, you should go through the ISC, and then, as you know, Molly expressed, through the DOOR system to go through their online and then get linked up with services. But there's at least for us, there's no other way to get into the system. You know, we are the single point of entry for services. It doesn't mean we're the only one who has any information or can, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of stuff out there. There's tons and tons of advocacy organizations and different places. But when you're talking about actually getting linked with services, the way I described and the way Molly described it, the way to get through doors and DD to get those waiver services.
Mhm.
But oh my gosh, there's tons and tons of other organizations.
I mean, I'm connected with them. That's how I knew about this webinar, but as I hear about it, like I knew about some stuff, but then this is so much more. So then I wanted to make, I mean, whatever, I just have to make sure. I feel like I need to just make sure I do all the homework necessary here is what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
And how I'm
But, yeah, the more
responding
the
to
merrier
this.
for everybody,
Yeah.
especially as a parent.
Right.
Fantastic.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
I'm so sorry about my dog. I really am.
Don't worry.
I'm muting.
Katina, is your hand raised? Did we get to you?
Yeah, thank you. A couple of a comment, then a question. So to the young lady who just spoke, I am a part of just like a parent advocacy group through parent of the therapeutic day school that my son goes to,
Okay.
as well as other parents. So I'm happy to put my cell number in the chat, and
Oh, great.
feel free to call me because it is 7,000 service agencies out there. And yeah, I do want to do research, and I am going to do research, but this is stressful and it's emotional, you know, for me, I mean, for all of us, right?
Right.
Emotional for us as parents to be, you know, looking at our kids, you know, praying that they never get old, but, you know, they're growing up and,
Yeah.
you know, our shift has to change. So us just kind of doing it together, just learning things on our own. You know, a lot of people are connected with other people and we just bring the information back to the group. We get together like once a month, have dinner, we laugh, we're obnoxious, we cry, talk about our kids' successes, and then we keep it moving, right? So I'm
Sounds
happy
lovely.
to put my information.
You sound fantastic.
Yeah,
That's
that sounds
wonderful.
wonderful. That sounds really good. Yeah.
So anybody who wants to reach out to me, I'm more than happy to, to befriend you in that way. The other question that I have is, you know, again, because this is so much for the three ladies that spoke, and, you know, your information was put in the chat. Can we reach out to you and can we meet with you one-on-one? Just to have even more questions answered. I know my son, you know, he's probably not going to be to a point where he goes to college. So I'd like some more customized answers to some of the questions that I have. You know, this is very high level, you know, 50,000-foot view, but that's a lot of it is not my story. So I would like to learn what is my story so that I can be well prepared. I mean, he's 13 now, but he's going to be 18 in like 10 minutes. And so I want to make sure that I am properly, you know, prepared. So are you ladies open to having an additional conversation?
I can go ahead and speak for myself. I think maybe there may be some parents here from Colorado. My ability to assist people is just limited to Illinois. So I would definitely be happy to offer that conversation to you, or I would connect you with someone else within the home services program who could assist you.
I appreciate it. And yes, I am in Illinois as well. I'm in Naperville, so.
Okay.
So I'd be happy to talk to you, but when you said you were in Naperville, that's not our ISC area. But I'd be happy to direct you and talk to you and tell you who you know, the number for there and who to contact, etc. Or, you know, just a general question, but for you to proceed as far as ponds, if you're not there yet, and getting into the idea of looking at services and really moving forward, then you would have to be connected with Service Inc. out there. And you may or may not be. But again, I'm happy to talk to you or anyone else. Flynn.
Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you.
Flynn sounds like a killer. I keep picturing this like huge.
You know,
killer
he
dog.
weighs 18.2 pounds. He's a little shorty and he's a little upset with his mother this evening. I apologize.
And I am more than willing to speak with you as well. I'm going to put my cell phone number in the chat box. Feel free to reach out anytime.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We do have one more speaker, so don't want to forget about that. So our fourth and last speaker, thank you, Molly, is Kristin. So I know Kristin has PowerPoint because she sent it to me yesterday. So Kristin, I will pin you. And I know we're going a little over. We did technically allocate 2 hours. And I think because this is so interactive, that's why it's going a little longer. So I love that. If someone does have to leave, just know that we'll continue to record. I still have the recording button going here. So, all right, Kristin, I will pin you.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to apologize in advance. I am recovering from bronchitis. So if I have a coughing fit, I have my fearless leader who will step in for me, Michelle, and hopefully not. I have plenty of drinks around me to keep me going. So I do have a PowerPoint, and I don't know how to, do I know how to share on Zoom?
You should be able to go to the bottom. It says share screen and you click the arrow up. And then you should.
No, I got the share screen. I just don't, show all window. Oh, I must have too many things open. Oh, got it. Okay. I got it.
You sure?
Yes, I do. Okay. So I have this PowerPoint that I am more than happy to share with you because it has links in there for our manuals, and it has my email in there and my cell phone number on the last page too. So I'm going to talk a little bit about transition services from Division of Rehabilitation Services. So my role within the division is I am the Community Resources Manager. So I manage all of the vocational rehab contracts for the state. All right, we are not a waiver program. So that is something that is a little different from the other ladies that we're talking. So a little bit about vocational rehab. We assist individuals with disabilities in achieving their vocational goals in a competitive, integrated setting, which we refer to as CIE. Excuse me. So our core services include information referral and counseling guidance, and those are provided to all customers. As Molly said, this is what we call individuals that partake in our services, right? It's a choice. You are choosing to come to DRS for services. There are other services that are individualized based on the needs of that individual. So we do many things as far as providing services with providers under a contract, which is really my world. We assist with community college, with college, grad school. We assist with vehicle modifications, with assistive and adaptive equipment. We can help anything that's related to a vocational goal. Excuse me. Okay, so a lot of common terminology that you will hear me talk about, and maybe you've heard this information around. VR is vocational rehab. STEP. So this is our secondary transition experience program, and is for students in high school, and I'll talk about a little more expanded later on that program. Transition. Services provided to individuals in high school who are preparing for life after graduation. PTS, pre-employment transition services. CRP, which are the community rehab providers, and those are holders of the contracts. SEP, which is a supported employment program. Customized employment, which I'll talk about in a little bit. It's another contract type. CIE, competitive integrated employment. And then finally, WIOA, which is the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. It does not like to forward for me. Okay, so PTS, we know that's pre-employment transition services, right? All services that are provided to students with a disability are based on the 5 required services under that act. Job exploration counseling, work-based learning experience, counseling on post-secondary education, workplace readiness training, and instruction and self-advocacy. So all of our contracts are based on providing those 5 services to individuals in high school. So this is really the heart of what I do at the division. So we manage a lot of different contracts, and I did the most common contract types. Fast track transition. So this is one of our newest contracts for the potentially eligible individuals. So that goes from age 14 through the age of 21. So when I say potentially eligible, what that means is that you are not meeting that full eligibility criteria. So in order to receive services under the VR part, right, you have to have documentation of a disability and then at least one functional limitation that would relate to work. Okay. Project Search is a really great program as well. It is on the opposite spectrum. It is available to customers in their last year of high school. It's a school to work program and is held at a host business. It's a 3-pronged contract type. It involves the school district who provides teachers to offer the classroom portion of services. It has a CRP, that community rehab provider that provides the job coaches. And then there's that host business. And oftentimes that is a hospital. I think that they are trying to get into O'Hare Airport as well. But most of the time it's a large agency, hospital, or another type of setting that has many different internship sites. So under this contract, the customer performs 3 different internships and learns those valuable skills with the goal of competitive integrated employment when they graduate. So sorry. STEP is one of our oldest running contract types, and many people have heard of STEP. It's available to customers who are 14 and a half through the age of 21 in high school who have been found eligible. So you will see that the STEP program is a full 6 months after those that want to participate in fast track. Right, so that's eligible for the 14. STEP includes a work portion and a learning those pre-employment transition services. So many students are working nights, holidays, weekends, summer hours, things like that in a competitive setting. Another contract type that we have is the Youth Initiative contract. It's available for customers who are 14 to 21, but this is very, very similar to the fast track, but these customers have been found eligible. So we say, yes, you do have a disability, right? Whereas the fast track is the only contract type that we say, hey, we think you might have a disability. Okay. So sorry. So we have many different placement choices under DRS because we are customer driven. It's all about customer choice. What do you want to do, right? There is the direct placement option where the customer, the individual with that disability, works directly with the VR counselor at DRS, right? The counselor has knowledge of the employment opportunities that match with the customer's informed employment choice. And that counselor can really help achieve their employment outcome directly. No extra support is needed. Then there's the assisted placement, where the counselor works collaboratively with internal business consultants. So DRS has a business consultant unit that goes out and does job development with many businesses statewide. So they work in tandem to find what's best for the customer. Excuse me. Then there's the purchase placement, and that's where the counselor needs the assistance of a CRP or a community rehab program to help the customers achieve their employment goal. So they need assistance with the upfront, maybe developing a resume or learning soft skills, and then in the job development piece, and potentially with job retention and support. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and I'm going to talk about I clicked on something. Okay, there we go. The most common adult service contracts. So these would be for the students in their last semester of school, or for those that have graduated. The milestone contract is an employment contract allowing for CRPs to provide that short-term focused placement services to assist the customer. So the milestone pays at a 15-day, once the individual has obtained employment and has worked for 15 days, then for 45, and for 90. So those individuals that participate in the milestone contract are individuals who don't need as much support. They may need some, but they don't need as much upfront or on the job supports. Then we have two contracts where they are long-term support contracts. First one is supported employment, and that allows for up to 24 months of support on the job. So the time clock does not begin until day one of employment. It is paid in phases, and there's certain criteria that has to be met at every phase. The contract itself covers about 45 weeks of support on the job, and then there's an option for continued support after that. Our brand newest contract is the customized employment contract, the CE. And that is a contract that really is for individuals who, oh, so sorry. Excuse me, that need not necessarily a job carving experience, but it's for someone to look and delve into their abilities, where we're not looking at functional limitations like we are on the other contract types, but you're looking for abilities. You're looking for what works best for this individual, right? What are they really good at? What do they really enjoy? You know, and then at the same time, you're looking at the employer to see where their unmet needs are, right? So maybe there is a need that the employer doesn't even know they have, but when you're talking to that customer, and the biggest part of customized employment is the discovery phase. And that's the first phase where you're learning all about that customer, right? You may be going with the customer to pre-COVID, right? To where they hang out, or you may go to church or family gatherings, or maybe you're still doing that, you know, remotely or virtually. And that contract, again, excuse me, is allows for up to 24 months of support on the job. The contract itself, once the customer finds employment, covers about 45 weeks of support on the job. And then there is that option for continued support after. Excuse me. So I wanted to just make sure that everyone was aware that the services that are provided under all job placement contracts are listed below. So assessment. What are the strengths and weaknesses of the customer? Does this individual, right, does this customer meet with the strengths of your agency, right? Job coaching, job development and placement services, job stability. That's what DRS strives for, right? So we are not paying for those services unless there is stability. So if someone meets that 15, 45, or 90 day, but they've gotten written up, or maybe they are on probation, that doesn't demonstrate stability. So we always strive for that. Job training, and then career development services. Excuse me. So we do have an internal or a link to do a referral, and I have that on the slide, next slide. But depending on where you want to be referred, it's a little different process. So if you're interested in participating in STEP, Youth Initiative, or Project Search, right? And those students that would be participating, that would be in school. So either contact the special education department, if they're at contact special education department. If they're interested in fast track, right? Those would cover individuals who are in community college, potentially, because it goes through the age of 21. Then you would let us know, and we can provide you a listing of fast track providers. So I also included links to our program manuals. We work really very hard on these. They're on my to-do list every year to revise and update. They are very long manuals. We have the Transition Services Program Manual that has descriptions, responsibilities, definitions of every single transition service contract that we have. We also have the CRP manual. And again, that's that community rehab provider manual that is for the adults. Oh, whoa. So if you have questions to learn more about vocational rehabilitation, I put a link in there that includes the referral information and then other information on voc rehab. And then for contractual related questions, you have my email and my state cell phone number. Excuse me.
Sorry, Kristin, I feel bad even making you talk tonight.
No, it's okay. Hopefully I'm on the tail end, right?
I know. I just had the stomach flu, so like it is, everything's going around. So I'm glad we're all home. But no, thank you for talking and sharing all that despite having troubles. So we appreciate it. I put Kristin's email in the chat as well. Someone just asked about the slides being shared. Yeah, so I'm still recording. This whole presentation will be on the website, our IABA website, as well as our YouTube channel. It's just going to take a little time tech-wise to figure that out. We will send out information when it goes up. Hopefully you can like fast forward to knowing, we'll put the order of the speakers, and then you can kind of fast forward to who you want to go to review versus watching it all again. I'll put that in the chat too. Does anyone have any questions for Kristin?
Hey, Kristen, I don't want to make you talk too much, but I guess I'm going to anyway.
No
When-
worries.
does it summarize it well to say that the services you outlined tonight or the capabilities of the services you've outlined tonight are done through the district primarily as the leader, and they're the liaison to you, your organization? Because my son will be going into the transition program in a year. And when I say that, he'll be out of high school right through 22. And I was always under the understanding that that transition, right, developing where he might be job-wise, career-wise, et cetera, was kind of through that piece. And now it kind of sounds like either they work with you, or is that a separate type of function?
So I'm going to give you a two-folded answer on this one. So while these students are in high school, the school district is a liaison, but the DRS counselor is involved in service and makes all determination of service provision and determine the eligibility for the program. Once these students graduate, then it's fully DRS and the district steps out. So I wouldn't say that it's only the school district. It should be a partnership. It should be a transition team between the school district and DRS. And then I'm going to kick it over to Michelle to see if she wants to add anything.
Thanks, Kristen. The only thing I would add is that it also depends on where in the state you are, because there are some areas that, we don't have a step contract. So we may not be as linked, but that doesn't mean that a student can't receive services from DRS. So it's always good to check and see. But yes, our staff and especially in the areas where we do have the contracts, we can attend IEP meetings and be there, from the time that student is 14 and a half through graduation, to make sure we have a good transition plan in place before, they're ready to leave school. And that can change over time what that plan looks like. So it is really important to keep us in the loop and to partner together, as Kristen was saying.
I do have a question for both of you. So I don't have a child currently on the spectrum. However, I work with families who have children who are transitioning into adult services. One of the families whom I've worked with, the school district has not referred out to you guys. However, I feel like this would be a very solid referral for this particular family. How do I go about advocating as that client's BCBA for these services? Or can I refer myself? Can I refer to you guys?
I'll speak for DD. This is Patty. The individual, if they're self-guardian, or the family, mom or dad under 18 generally, need to apply for the services. So if you called,
Okay.
we would ask you to have them call us. I won't speak to what DRS has for their.
Okay, so they just need to apply through DRS.
Well,
then.
no. I'm saying for DD, the individual or the guardian need to
Right.
apply through their ISC. I'm not real sure what the DRS criteria is.
I believe they've gone through that process already. She's looking for more transitional supports for her son that's in high school currently. He's under the age of 18. But what
Mhm.
Kristen was speaking about, the transitioning program with job supports and things like that, is something that the family would really benefit from. And the school has not made those referrals as of this point.
All right. A
So
school district issue, I believe, right?
Yeah, the school district has not made those. So he does have an IEP meeting coming up actually in January. So
Mhm.
I can mention that I was in this training and were exposed to these services that potentially could be useful, but I wanted to have the appropriate means to refer them out, or how do they get him referred for these services?
So this is Kristen.
Yeah.
We can do a couple different things, right? So on the PowerPoint, you can do the the web referral.
Okay.
Because anybody can refer. You can also email me, and I can let you know if that school district has a STEP program. I'm not sure where you're located.
I'll probably go ahead and email you just to,
That's
for
fine.
more in-depth details about the specific case. But I just
Absolutely.
feel like these services are not as widely known about. So while working with adults in my position, I feel like I can help disseminate some of this out because this is great information.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Thank you, Christine.
Not a problem. Yeah. So I just would like access to the PowerPoints when available.
I would echo that comment about knowledge. I mean, I thought my wife and I were pretty up to speed on things like that, but just these possible job opportunities that starting already at 14 and a half or 14 for the early, I had no idea. My son's already 17. So we're still okay. But I mean, there's some things I feel like we could have started earlier had we known about these things.
So
Well-
so sorry.
No, go ahead, Kristin.
I was just gonna say, if you have questions or you need further information, do not hesitate to contact me. And I can provide linkages or additional information, anything that we can do to help.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This is super helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a real quick question. Am I muted? No.
No, you're good.
Okay, good. I always have to double check. So my son is actually 17, turning 18 in February. He's in a vocational high school in Chicago. And they do, I mean, he's eligible to be in school until he's 22, I think, 21, 22. And they do like a transition program after they graduate. So he's in 11th grade right now. Is that different? It seems to me like it's different. I thought that was what was available to us in terms of support, like transition and job support. This is a whole different thing, if I'm understanding you correctly. Is that right?
So this is Kristin. Yes, that is correct. So I'm speaking of Division of Rehabilitation services that are available, right? So the transition programs that you're talking about are through the school district. So that's one area. And then DRS also has services that help supplement the transition services at the schools.
And the school will not support him in the job placement. In other words, that is a separate thing. In other words, once he's out of the school and the transition program, which goes to age 22, at that point, the school will no longer support him, correct?
Right.
And in that case, that would be an area that you would be able to support.
Yes, he would move over to adult services for DRS. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that also is very relevant. Sorry.
No, I was just
sorry.
going to say, and that's a
Yeah.
critical piece that we are working with ISB on currently, and Kristin's been a huge advocate there too, is ensuring that we have that link from school services to adult services and making sure that our counselors are connecting with students before they leave the school setting, because unfortunately we do see that sometimes young adults leave school settings and then we don't get them in our system. And I've heard DRS talked about as like the best kept secret of in
I also
Illinois.
thought I was well
really
informed. I really did. I got this link through an organization that I've worked with, to get onto this meeting. But this almost, not the puns, he's already applied for puns, but almost everything else was news to me. And I've been, I'm a special ed teacher. Like almost all of this is news to me. So it's a lot to take in, and specifically the vocational piece. He's high functioning. That's really kind of a big next piece. Is he has potential for a really meaningful work, but he needs to be supported, and that's kind of that next big thing that we're thinking about.
yeah. It's so important. And honestly, I have an almost 5-year-old with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and I'm learning every day too. And I've worked with this agency for 8 years. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
It's just there's so much out there
Right.
And we are just trying to spread the word and just make sure that people are getting the supports that they need and that are out there. So
Right.
I get it. I
Yeah,
know.
this is wonderful. This is really, and I echo everybody else that we want the link to look at it again and to disseminate it, because I know that there's other people that I know who would be very happy to have the information that you guys have been providing. So, yeah.
Definitely.
Yes, please reach out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will put my name in the chat as well, just in case if you're not on the instructional ABA email family list, when it goes out, when we upload this, you can always contact me directly. I'm sure maybe it'll take a day to download 2 hours of this to my desktop, but I'll just leave it running overnight.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any further questions? I don't want to keep anyone too late. It's only 7:30 in Colorado, but I know it's almost 8:30 in Illinois. So any other questions? All right. Well, I know we had some people express that they're looking forward, that they couldn't make it and they'd be watching. So just know how many families and people we impacted even beyond our numbers here. So thank you everyone so much. Thank you, Molly. Thank you, Patty. Thank you, Kristin. And thank you, Kim, so much for speaking, and Michelle, you as well.
Thank you all very much.
Yes, and thank you
you.
to our families for attending and our parents. Thank you, Chris and Jennifer, for helping me organize. We will communicate this out. We'll probably even put like on our social media when it's uploaded, so you can always follow us on Facebook or Instagram. That's a good way to find info out too. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank